The first warning came from the Lunar Deep Space Array. Dr. Maya Patel had been reviewing routine sensor data when the anomaly appeared, a massive gravitational distortion at the edge of the solar system. Within minutes, the array's quantum sensors detected hundreds of objects emerging from what appeared to be artificially generated wormholes. "This can't be right," Maya muttered, her fingers flying across the holographic interface. The objects were massive, some nearly the size of small moons, and they were moving in perfect formation. There was no natural explanation for what she was seeing. After triple-checking her calculations, she initiated the first contact protocol that had been gathering dust for decades. Within hours, every major space agency and military installation on Earth was at maximum alert. The objects were undeniably artificial, spacecraft of clearly alien origin, advancing through the solar system with impossible precision. Their trajectory left no doubt. They were headed directly for Earth. In the Pentagon's newly established First Contact Command Center, General Sarah Chen stood before a wall of screens displaying the approaching fleet. 20 years in special operations hadn't prepared her for this moment. "What's the latest count?" she asked her executive officer. 843 vessels, ma'am. The largest is approximately 300 kilometers in length. They're maintaining perfect formation despite breaking every known law of physics with their propulsion system. Before Chen could respond, every screen in the command center suddenly went dark. When they reactivated, they displayed a single figure, a towering crystalline being with multiple limbs, and what appeared to be a corona of shifting energy around its head. When it spoke, the words appeared directly in the minds of everyone on Earth, translated perfectly into their native languages. "People of Earth, we are the Kryvax Empire. Your world lies within our designated expansion zone. Our scans indicate your civilization has achieved basic spaceflight and rudimentary quantum computing, but you remain primitive by galactic standards. We offer you the opportunity to join our empire as a protectorate species. Resistance would be futile and would result in your extinction. You have 48 hours to surrender your world governments to Kryvax authority." The transmission ended as abruptly as it began. In the sudden silence, General Chen turned to her staff. "Get me the President and the Joint Chiefs, and someone find Dr. Patel. I want to know everything that Lunar Array picked up about their technology." The next 48 hours transformed human civilization. Ancient rivalries were set aside as nations united against an existential threat. In secret facilities around the globe, scientists worked furiously to analyze the limited data they had on the Kryvax ships. Military forces mobilized while attempting to maintain the illusion of panic and disarray. But it was in an underground lab beneath MIT where the first real hope emerged. Dr. James Kimura, a quantum neurologist who'd spent his career studying the unique properties of human consciousness, made a discovery that would change everything. His team had been analyzing the Kryvax transmission when they noticed something extraordinary. The alien communication technology interfaces directly with our minds, he explained to a room full of military and scientific leaders. But here's the interesting part. Our brains aren't just receiving their signal. We're affecting it. Something about human neural patterns creates a disruption in their quantum field technology. General Chen leaned forward. "Can we weaponize it?" Kimura nodded slowly. "Maybe. Their entire technological base seems to rely on quantum field manipulation. If we could amplify and focus the disruptive effect of human consciousness." He paused, looking around the room. "We might have a way to fight back." As the deadline approached, world leaders gathered at the United Nations. The Kryvax would be expecting a response from a frightened, primitive species ready to submit. Instead, humanity prepared to show them something unprecedented. President Carmen Rodriguez stood before the General Assembly, her voice steady as she delivered humanity's response. "We choose to fight, not because we are certain of victory, but because the very essence of humanity is the refusal to submit to tyranny. We have spent our entire history overcoming impossible odds. We will not stop now." In high orbit, the Kryvex fleet commander received the transmission with what passed for amusement in his species. These humans were even more primitive than expected if they thought they could resist. He gave the order to begin the invasion, completely unaware that humanity's apparent weakness was about to become their greatest strength. The first shots in humanity's greatest war were about to be fired, and the Kryvex Empire was about to learn a lesson that countless others had learned before. Never underestimate the human spirit. Deep beneath MIT's campus, Dr. James Kimura hadn't slept in 36 hours. The holographic displays surrounding him pulsed with data as test subjects interfaced with salvaged pieces of Kryvex technology. Fragments of their communication systems recovered from a failed scout ship decades ago and kept secret by various governments. Each human interaction with the alien tech produced unique wave patterns that seemed to interfere with its normal function. "Run it again," he told his assistant, Dr. Sarah Hassan. "There's something we're missing." The latest test subject, a young graduate student named Michael Chen, sat in the modified MRI machine as his neural patterns were recorded. "Look at this," Sarah pointed to a particular frequency spike. Every time the subject experiences strong emotions, especially determination or defiance, the disruption effect increases exponentially. Before Kimura could respond, General Chen strode into the lab, accompanied by Dr. Maya Patel from the lunar array. "Please tell me you have something," the general said. "The Kryvex fleet has begun moving into attack formation." Maya quickly pulled up the latest sensor data. They're deploying in a standard hexagonal pattern around the planet. Based on their energy signatures, they're charging weapon systems. Kimura gestured to his displays. "We've confirmed the disruption effect. Human consciousness naturally generates quantum interference patterns that destabilize Kryvex tech. The stronger the emotional state, the stronger the effect. But we need a way to amplify it dramatically and project it over vast distances." "What about the global satellite network?" Maya suggested. "We could modify communication satellites to act as quantum field amplifiers." Sarah's eyes widened, "and link them to volunteers acting as neural pattern generators. A worldwide web of human consciousness." "How many people would we need?" General Chen asked. Kimura ran quick calculations. "Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. And they'd need to be in a heightened emotional state, focused on resistance and survival." "That won't be a problem," Chen replied grimly. "The whole world is about to be in that state. How quickly can you build a prototype?" The next 24 hours transformed the MIT lab into a hub of frenetic activity. Engineers and physicists from around the world joined virtually, collaborating on the quantum amplification technology. In orbit, stealth drones carefully modified key satellites under the cover of debris fields, while on the ground, a network of volunteers began testing the neural interface systems. Dr. Hassan made another breakthrough around hour 18. "The neural patterns are stronger when people work in groups," she exclaimed. "There's some kind of quantum entanglement effect between human minds when they're united in purpose." The discovery led to a radical redesign of the interface system. Instead of individual operators, they would need groups working in synchronized meditation chambers. The military began converting underground bunkers into neural amplification centers, each designed to house teams of volunteers. But the Kryvex weren't idle. Their ships had begun systematic sweeps of Earth's orbital infrastructure, destroying military satellites with precise energy beams. They clearly intended to blind and deafen Earth's defenses before the main assault. In the Pentagon Command Center, General Chen watched the systematic destruction of humanity's space-based assets. "How much longer do you need?" she asked Kimura over a secure quantum channel. 6 hours minimum," he replied. "The neural interface network is stable, but we need time to bring all the amplification nodes online." "You have 4 hours," Chen said. "They're moving faster than we anticipated. What's the minimum number of nodes you need for the system to work?" 30% coverage should be enough to disrupt their main fleet. "But General, we haven't tested the system at full power. The effect on the human operators, we don't know what it might do to them." "The volunteers understand the risks," Chen replied. "They're willing to sacrifice everything to protect Earth, just like the rest of us." In orbit, the Kryvax fleet commander observed Earth's primitive attempts at defense with what passed for amusement among his kind. The humans were trying to hide their remaining satellites among clouds of debris, a tactic so obvious it was almost endearing. His ships continued their methodical cleanup of Earth's orbit, preparing for the final assault. The commander had subjugated dozens of worlds, and this one would be no different. The humans' pitiful resistance would make an excellent example to other primitive species who might consider defying the Empire. He gave orders to begin the next phase of the attack, completely unaware that every satellite his ships destroyed was releasing specially engineered quantum particles designed to saturate space with the precursor elements needed for humanity's desperate plan. In the MIT lab, Kimura watched the coverage map slowly fill as more neural amplification nodes came online. The volunteers were already in place, thousands of humans in underground chambers across the globe, their minds focused on a single purpose. The technology was untested, the risks were enormous, but they were out of options and out of time. "Sir," Sarah called out, her voice tense, "the Kryvax ships are moving into their final attack positions. Energy readings are spiking across their fleet." Kimura took a deep breath and opened a channel to General Chen. "We're as ready as we'll ever be. On your command, we'll activate the neural network." In the Pentagon, Chen looked at the tactical display showing the Kryvax fleet's attack formation. In less than an hour, they would begin their assault, expecting to find a helpless primitive world. Instead, they were about to face humanity's greatest weapon, the combined will of thousands of human minds, amplified and focused through a network of quantum technology they didn't even know existed. "Send the signal," Chen ordered. "It's time to show the Kryvax Empire what humanity is really capable of." The Kryvax fleet commander, Supreme Executor Vexthor, initiated the first wave of the assault with absolute confidence. Hundreds of ships moved in perfect synchronization, their quantum-based weapons charging to unleash devastation upon the primitive world below. The humans' feeble attempts at resistance had been amusing, but now it was time to end this. In neural amplification chambers across the globe, thousands of volunteers sat in meditative circles, their minds linked through Kimura's revolutionary interface. Underground bunkers in New York, Lagos, Mumbai, Beijing, and dozens of other locations hummed with power as the quantum amplification network prepared to activate. "All nodes reporting ready," Dr. Sarah Hassan announced, her voice tense as she monitored the global network from the MIT Command Center. "Neural synchronization at 93% and holding." Dr. Kimura nodded grimly. "General Chen, we're ready. The moment they begin their attack, we'll activate the network." In the Pentagon, General Chen watched as the Kryvax ships entered firing range. "Confirmed. All military forces are in position for Phase 2, assuming your system works." She paused. "Good luck, Doctor. To all of us." The first Kryvax energy beams lanced toward Earth's atmosphere, a devastating display of power meant to shatter humanity's will to resist. At that exact moment, Kimura gave the command, "Activate neural network. All nodes, full power." Thousands of human minds focused as one, their combined consciousness amplified through the quantum network. The effect was instantaneous and far more dramatic than anyone had anticipated. A visible wave of quantum disruption rippled through space, intersecting with the Kryvax energy beams. The alien weapons flickered and died. Across the Kryvax fleet, ships began reporting catastrophic system failures as the quantum disruption field, powered by human consciousness, tore through their technology. Their perfect formation broke apart as vessels lost power and began drifting. Vexthor stared in disbelief as his command ship systems flickered. "Impossible," he transmitted to his fleet. "They're using some kind of primitive quantum interference. Recalibrate all systems and prepare second-wave attack pattern." But the humans weren't finished. In the neural chambers, the volunteers pushed harder, their combined will strengthening the disruption field. Dr. Hassan monitored their vital signs with growing concern. The neural load is intense, she reported. We can't maintain this level of power for long. We don't need to, Kimura replied. General Chen, the fleet is vulnerable. Execute Phase 2. Around the world, military forces launched their counterattack. Fighters and missiles, specially shielded against the disruption field, streaked skyward. The Kryvax ships, their defensive systems crippled by the neural network, were suddenly vulnerable to humanity's primitive weapons. Vexthor watched in horror as the first ships in his fleet began to fall. Missiles pierced disabled shields, destroying vessels that had survived centuries of space combat. Human fighters, impossibly agile, darted between the massive alien ships, targeting critical systems with surgical precision. This is tactically impossible, he broadcast to his command staff. Their weapons are inferior. Their technology is primitive. How are they doing this? In the MIT command center, warning signals began flashing. Neural network is starting to destabilize, Sarah reported urgently. The volunteers can't maintain this level of effort much longer. Kimura opened a channel to all neural chambers. You've done more than we could have hoped. Begin power reduction in sequence. Military forces, you have 10 minutes to inflict maximum damage before the disruption field starts to weaken. The next 10 minutes would be remembered as one of the most remarkable military engagements in human history. Earth's combined forces, coordinating with unprecedented unity, systematically targeted the largest and most powerful Kryvax ships. Without their quantum-based defensive systems, the alien vessels proved surprisingly vulnerable to conventional weapons. Vexthor, watching his mighty fleet be decimated by a species he had dismissed as primitive, made a decision that would change the course of the war. All surviving ships, emergency quantum jump. Retreat to Rally Point Alpha. Prepare for Protocol 0. As the disruption field began to weaken, the remaining Kryvax ships activated their quantum drives. In a series of flashes, they vanished from Earth orbit, leaving behind the wreckage of nearly 200 of their vessels. In the Pentagon, General Chen allowed herself a small smile. First round goes to humanity. Well done, everyone. But her satisfaction was short-lived as Dr. Maya Patel's voice came over the comm, her tone urgent. General, the lunar array just picked up massive quantum signatures at the rally point. The Kryvax are assembling something big, based on the energy readings. She paused. They're bringing in a planet killer. Kimura, overhearing the transmission, looked at his display of exhausted volunteers. The neural network needs at least 24 hours to recharge, and that's assuming the volunteers can handle another session. If they bring in something bigger, then we need a new plan, Chen interrupted. Because whatever they're bringing, it'll be here long before we can recharge your network. Dr. Patel, get me everything you can on these quantum signatures. Dr. Kimura, I need options. The Kryvax just learned that humanity won't go down easily. Now we need to prove we can't go down at all. As the remains of the alien ships burned up in Earth's atmosphere, creating spectacular light shows across the globe, humanity celebrated its first victory. But in secure facilities around the world, military leaders and scientists worked frantically to prepare for what they knew was coming. The Kryvax Empire's true weapon of last resort, and with it, a test of human resilience, unlike anything they had faced before. Dr. Maya Patel's hands trembled as she displayed the lunar array's latest readings to the Emergency Council. The holographic image showed a massive structure taking shape at the Kryvax rally point, far larger than anything they'd encountered before. The quantum signatures suggest they're assembling something we're calling the World Breaker, she explained. Based on energy readings, it could potentially crack Earth's crust like an eggshell. Our preliminary calculations suggest it will be operational in less than 18 hours. General Chen studied the projection grimly. And our neural network? Still recharging, Dr. Kimura replied. Even if we could power it up now, The World Breaker's quantum shielding appears to operate on a completely different principle. Our disruption field might not affect it at all. Sarah Hassan, who had been quietly analyzing data in the corner, suddenly straightened. What if we didn't try to attack it from the outside? All eyes turned to her. The neural interface technology. We've only been using it as a weapon. But it's really a way to interact with Kryvak's quantum systems. What if we could get someone inside? The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Chen was the first to speak. You're suggesting we infiltrate the World Breaker. How would we even get someone close enough? The wreckage, Maya said, her eyes lighting up. We recovered several intact Kryvak shuttles. Their quantum drives are still functional. If we could modify one. Kimura shook his head. The neural interface is designed for group consciousness. Trying to run it with a single operator would be. He paused, searching for the right word. Lethal. Sarah finished quietly. The neural load would be too much for one person to handle. Unless. She pulled up data from their earlier tests. Remember how some individuals showed unusually strong disruption effects? If we could find someone with the right neural pattern and modify the interface to work more efficiently. General Chen's expression hardened. How long would it take to identify a suitable candidate? Hours, at least, Kimura replied. And we'd need someone with an exceptional mind. Strong will, unusual neural plasticity, high emotional resilience. You need me, Sarah said simply. Everyone turned to stare at her. I've been running the neural patterns since we started. My disruption effect is off the charts. That's why I've been overseeing the volunteer coordination. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to be pulled from the research team. The next 6 hours were a blur of preparation. While Maya and her team modified a captured Kryvak shuttle, Kimura and his engineers rebuilt the neural interface for a single user. Sarah underwent a battery of tests and preparations, her calm determination never wavering. In a quiet moment, Kimura found her in the prep room. You understand what this means, right? Even if everything works perfectly, the neural load will cause permanent damage. And if anything goes wrong, I understand. She cut him off gently. But this is about more than survival now. The Kryvaks need to learn that humanity isn't just another species to be conquered. We're something they've never encountered before. The modified shuttle was ready with barely an hour to spare. Dubbed Trojan Horse, it had been carefully disguised to match Kryvak's auxiliary craft. Sarah wore a sleek interface suit designed to maintain her connection to the neural systems. The plan was audacious. She would pilot the shuttle to the World Breaker using stolen Kryvak's codes, then interface directly with its quantum core. Once you're inside, Maya explained during the final briefing, the neural interface should let you access their systems. But you'll have to work fast. The moment they detect the intrusion, they'll throw everything they have at stopping me. Sarah finished. I know. How's our timing looking? The World Breaker is 85% complete, Maya replied. They'll be in firing position in just under 3 hours. This is going to be close. General Chen addressed the gathered team. The combined forces of Earth are standing by. The moment Ms. Hassan begins her infiltration, we'll launch everything we have at the Kryvak's fleet. It won't stop them, but it should keep them distracted. As Sarah prepared to board the shuttle, Kimura caught her arm. The interface is programmed to terminate if the neural load becomes critical. Don't override it, no matter what. Promise me. She smiled sadly. You know I can't promise that, James, but I promise to make it count. The launch was timed to coincide with a burst of activity around the World Breaker as construction ships came and went. The Trojan Horse slipped into the stream of traffic, its stolen codes passing the initial security checks. Sarah lay in the modified pilot's chamber, her mind already interfacing with the ship's quantum systems. Through the neural link, she could feel the vast complexity of Kryvak's technology surrounding her. It was beautiful and terrifying. A symphony of quantum interactions that their sensors had only glimpsed. As she approached the massive form of the World Breaker, she felt something else, an echo of the minds controlling it. alien yet somehow familiar. Approaching final security checkpoint, she sub-vocalized through the neural link to the Earth Command Center. If this works, you won't hear from me again until it's done. If it doesn't, she paused. It's been an honor. General Chen's voice came through clearly. The honor is ours, Miss Hassan. Give them hell. As the Trojan horse passed into the shadow of the Worldbreaker, Sarah took a deep breath and fully opened her mind to the neural interface. The quantum world rushed in, threatening to overwhelm her consciousness. But she held firm, remembering everything that was at stake. Somewhere in the vast quantum network before her was the key to humanity's survival. She just had to find it before the neural load burned out her mind, or before the Kryvax discovered what humanity had managed to slip past their defenses. The final battle for Earth was about to begin, not with armies or fleets, but with a single human mind daring to challenge the fundamental assumptions of an interstellar empire. Inside the quantum network of the Worldbreaker, Sarah Hassan's consciousness floated in an ocean of data. Every second brought new waves of pain as the neural interface pushed her mind beyond its limits, but she pressed on, searching for a way into the weapon's core systems. Through the quantum link, she could sense the Kryvax operators, their alien minds humming with purpose as they prepared their planet killer for its first and final shot at Earth. They were so confident in their superiority that they never thought to look for an infiltrator within their own quantum network. In the MIT Command Center, Dr. Kimura watched Sarah's neural readings with growing horror. Her synaptic patterns are approaching critical levels. She can't take much more of this. Look, Maya pointed to another display. The Worldbreaker's energy signature is changing. She's found something. Inside the quantum realm, Sarah had indeed made a shocking discovery. The Kryvax technology wasn't just advanced, it was alive. Their entire empire was built on captured and enslaved consciousness, ancient beings transformed into living quantum processors. The Worldbreaker itself was powered by what had once been a vast collective intelligence, now imprisoned and forced to serve as a weapon. Sarah's voice, weak but determined, came through the neural link. Their whole technology, it's built on slavery. They don't just conquer species, they transform them into components of their machines. That's why our neural patterns disrupt their systems. We're interfering with the enslaved consciousnesses. In the Pentagon, General Chen's eyes widened. Can you communicate with these beings? Already trying, Sarah gasped. But I need more power. The neural load. Don't you dare override those safety protocols, Kimura warned, but he knew she would. Sarah had already made her decision. She disabled the interface's safety limiters, allowing her mind to fully merge with the quantum network. The pain was extraordinary, but it brought clarity. She could now see the vast interconnected web of consciousness that powered the Kryvax empire and its fundamental weakness. These beings, she broadcast to Earth. They've been waiting for someone to hear them, to free them. I can show them another way. In orbit around Earth, the combined military forces of humanity launched their desperate attack. Fighters and missiles streaked toward the Kryvax fleet, not to destroy them, but to keep them distracted from what was happening inside their prized weapon. Supreme Executor Vexthor watched the primitive assault with disdain. Let them exhaust themselves, he commanded. The Worldbreaker will be ready in moments. Then we will show them the price of defiance. But something was wrong. Deep within the Worldbreaker's quantum core, Sarah had made contact with the enslaved consciousness. She showed them memories of Earth, of human determination and resilience, of people standing together against impossible odds. More importantly, she showed them something the Kryvax had never offered: choice. The effect rippled through the entire Kryvax network. Across their fleet, quantum systems began to change as the enslaved beings stirred from their enforced slumber. Weapons failed. Shields collapsed. Ships began to drift. What's happening? Vexthor demanded as his command ship systems started to fail. How are they doing this? The answer came not in words, but in a wave of consciousness that swept through every Kryvax vessel. The beings they had enslaved were awakening, and they had chosen to stand with humanity. In the quantum realm, Sarah felt her mind beginning to fade. The neural load was too much, but she had one last task. With the last of her strength, she showed the freed consciousnesses how to use the Kryvax's own technology against them. The World Breaker, designed to crack planets, instead turned its power inward. A cascade of quantum reactions rippled through the Kryvax fleet. Ships didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist as their quantum technology collapsed in on itself. Vexthor's last transmission was cut short as his mighty empire crumbled, undone not by superior firepower, but by the very beings they had enslaved and the human who had shown them the power of choice. In the MIT command center, Kimura and his team worked frantically to extract Sarah's consciousness from the quantum network before it collapsed completely. Her physical form was retrieved from the Trojan horse, but her mind. 3 days later, in a hospital room filled with monitoring equipment, Sarah Hassan opened her eyes. The neural damage was extensive, but the doctors were optimistic. More importantly, she wasn't alone. Through the quantum link, she had forged a connection with the freed consciousnesses who had chosen to remain in the quantum realm, but as allies, not slaves. "They want to learn from us," she told the assembled leaders of Earth. "They've seen countless advanced civilizations, but never one that faced extinction with such unity and determination. Never one that offered freedom instead of trying to seize power." General Chen smiled. "And what do they offer in return? Knowledge, understanding, a chance to join a true galactic community, not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals." Sarah paused, looking out the window at the sky where debris from the Kryvax fleet still burned up in the atmosphere, creating spectacular light shows. They say humanity showed them something they had forgotten after eons of enslavement. That true strength lies not in domination, but in the power to choose one's own path. In the months that followed, Earth began a new chapter. The freed quantum beings shared their vast knowledge, but always with respect for humanity's right to develop at its own pace. The remnants of Kryvax technology were studied and adapted, not to build weapons, but to heal the scars of war and reach for the stars. And in universities and research centers around the world, a new generation of scientists studied the principles that had saved Earth, the unique properties of human consciousness, the power of unity in the face of extinction, and most importantly, the lesson that had brought down an empire, that the strongest bonds are those chosen freely, not imposed by force. The stars had never seemed closer or more welcoming, as humanity prepared to take its place among the civilizations of the galaxy, not as conquerors or subjects, but as pioneers of a new way forward.